Hi, boys and girls. This is our third week of observing our plant project. Last week we were talking about how we predicted how many weeks we thought it would take for a plant to grow, and we actually, at least my prediction was wrong, and so was my friends, and they came up a whole week within a week. And in a little while, we're going to get to see where they're at now and to see how many plants have come up. So today I'm going to read you a story about our plant life cycle. And if you can see, there's water, there's seeds, there's a sprout, and there's the sunshine, which is all things we're going to learn about in our book. The seed needs soil. So on the first day, we planted our seeds in soil. Then the seed needs water, and we made sure we gave it water. And if you can see, it looks like it's coming out. The roots are coming out of the seed to get it ready to come up out of the soil. We couldn't see that when that was occurring with our plants, but that would be pretty amazing if we could have seen that. Maybe someday we can try another experiment to see if we can see something like that. Then the seed will sprout, that means it comes up out of the soil. And we saw 5 of them last week that had come up. So we're going to see how many are up now. And this little Mr. Sun, he was a good helper in that. Then the sprout needs water, which Mrs. Welter makes sure that she waters the plants. I'm only watering them every other day because they're a little container, and I don't think our plants need that much water all the time. And then, who knows, some days it rains, so then I don't need to water them at all. And it is a seedling when all the leaves are up. And that's what we saw with our 5. There was just a few seedlings that had come up with the leaves. So we're going to see this week what they look like. I bet you're getting excited about that. I know I am. The bees will pollinate the plants, which that means the bees go in and they take the nectar out of the flowers, and they take that nectar and they take it back to do in their beehives, which helps make their honey. But this also helps the plants to keep them growing and getting more buds on them. Then the wind will blow and new seeds from the flower plant will fall off into the soil, and then the new seeds will need soil, water, and sunlight. So as you can see, it just is a continuous cycle. It goes from putting a seed in the ground to what happens next. You're right. Once it's in the ground, you're going to give it some water and sunshine. And then after that, what's going to happen? That's right. The roots are going to go into the soil, and the sprouts are going to come up so that you can see. And the sprouts means what? I knew you had it right. That's right. It'll have leaves on it. And then the wind will blow and new seedlings will come out. But what happened before the wind blew? Thank you for reminding me. I knew you would catch it. Yep, that's right. The bees will pollinate the flower so that they can have some nectar to make their honey, but it also helps the flowers keep growing and getting new seeds, and then they'll come back and start all over again. So that's our story about that. So today what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is how I've been doing, recording some of the data. Now, data means information about something that we're observing. So I have several different ways that we're going to use this data. So I'm going to show you the first one, and I'm going to move the camera so you can see it. There you go. So this is called a bar graph, and a bar graph has 4 parts to it. It has a title, which the title is just a short explanation of what the graph is going to identify, so, or what it looks like. So, and we called ours numbers of the plants sprouting. So that means the number of plants that were coming up out of the soil. Okay, so then another part is the x-axis, which runs horizontally, and that means across. And this part of it is dates when the growth occurred. So this is going to just have a time period that we use, and some people might not use. Mine are daily ones after our first week when they started growing. So I just that's how I recorded ours, because that's how fast things were moving. And then the other part of the graph is our y-axis, which runs vertically, which means up and down. And that's the number of plants that came up. So all of this information is the data that I used, which means the information on the graph. So as you can see, I've used beautiful colors to represent each day and how many plants came up. So I'm going to use this little pointer, and so on 4/1/2020, there were 0. That's the day we planted them. Then on 4/8/2020, that was our second video, and we had 5 up. So this is how many came up the very next day. On 4/9/2020, 15. In the orange, there were 15 plants that came up. And then on 4/10/2020, there were actually 21 plants that came up. And that's what the red represents. And then on 4/11/2020, there were 26 plants. In our green, there were 26 plants that came up. And then on 4/12/2020, there were 31 plants that came up. And this is purple. If you remember, I planted 32, and 1 plant had waited and came up the next day on 4/13/2020. So all 32 plants are already up. So I will show you that in a little bit so that you have a little idea. This is our bar graph. So I want you to keep in mind all the different areas about it, and you can rewind this and so that you can learn what a bar graph does. So the next part of our observation is, I don't want to forget how, remember we were using my plant journal. So on page 3, we needed to note what my plant needs. And it needs, it needs air, so I wrote air there. What else did it need? You got it, sun. And then it also needs, that's right, it needs water. And then it has to be in the soil. So my plant will need air, sun, water, and soil to grow. So during this time, Miss Welter has been watering our plants. Now today we're going to see how tall they've gotten. So when we talk about how tall a plant goes, we can use a ruler. And a ruler has little markings on it. And as you can see, it has a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and so on. And that means inches. That's 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch. And remember we just got to use measuring just for a little bit, but we didn't use a ruler. We used different objects to see. So remember how we used the little cubes to see how long something was, and we would count how many cubes long it was? Well, this is a ruler, and it actually gives us numbers that we can use to see how tall something is or how long something is, because we can use it this way or this way. So, and then if you look at this, there's little lines. Right here this is where 0 starts. And then this little line here is an 1/8, and that's a 1/4, and that's a 1/2 inch. So that means that they're really, really little. And then we have 3/4 here and back up to the inch right here. And so we want to see how tall some of our plants are. So I'm going to move on to the next graph. So just a minute, I'm going to prepare this for us so that we have our next graph. And I'm going to move it so you can see it. And yes, this is our graph, and this graph I've called this is our title, growth chart, the growth chart. And this on this first part, I noted the days, each day that the cups, because remember how I numbered the cups? I wrote down each number, which this is what our y-axis data is about. It's about the number of what number the cup is. And then our x-axis, remember this is vertically, this is horizontal, is going to be the days we measure them to see how tall they get. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to measure them. So I'm going to move this, and as you can see, I'm going to record those. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I did this. We're going to take this, and we're going to take the ruler, and we're going to put it in there. And if you can see, let me put this down a little. It's right at the half mark. So the half mark on the ruler is right here. So that's only how tall they are, that number 1 cup are right now. And number 2 cup, we're going to measure it. Let's see. Number 2 cup, oh, it's right there. You see it? It's right here at the 3/4 mark on our ruler. And our number 3 cup, let's see. Oh, that one is it's at the half mark, just like number 1. So our number 3 cup is a half mark, 1/2 inch. And this one is our number 4 cup, and I'm trying to flatten so I get a good measurement. If you can see, let's see if we can get it behind that one. Oh, look at that. It's actually an inch tall. Wow. So let's go back over to our graph that I have. And if you can see, I noted that number 1 was a 1/2 inch, number 2 was 3/4, number 3 was a half, and number 4 was 1/4. And I promise when we, next week, I will have all of the numbers in because it'll take too long to measure all of them. So I will have that information for you next week on how tall they are as of today. So in our journal, we're going to turn to page 4, and here it says, my plant is growing. It is blank inches tall. I put 1 because my cup that I'm going to be watching is the number 4 cup. So we have cups numbers 1 through 32. And each one of you will be assigned one that's in Mrs. Welter's class. And that's the one you will get to have. And so if you, that you can watch and observe to see how tall everything gets. So if you would like to know what the number for your cup is, just email me at kwelter, which is KWELTER at KUSD.org, O-R-G. And I will let you know which number yours is, and I will, each week, I will email you and let you know how tall it is. If you're not in Mrs. Welter's class, that's okay. Pick a cup that you want to watch and observe. And you can do the same thing. Just email me the number you want to watch, and I will make sure you get the information you need to put in your book. So down here in this little box, it says, this is what my plant looks like today. So I am going to take my plant number, my cup number 4, and I'm going to look at it, and that's what I'm going to draw here. So next week, you will get to see what I drew and what it looks like. So now that our plants have the seedlings up and it's just the leaf part, the next part of the plant is going to be the flower, but it's going to be first called a bud. So and a bud it's not going to have the flower part of it. It's just going to be a little green little sprout and eventually it'll open up. So what I want you to do is predict. Remember what prediction means. What prediction means is that you're going to decide. Is it going to be on a certain day? Is it going to be, are you going to use in a week or 2 or 4? When do you think the first bud is gonna come up on our plants? I wrote my prediction on, I turned back to page 3 and I wrote my prediction on the back of page 2, and I wrote that it's going to, I'm predicting that on 4/27/2020, that there will be 5 plants with buds on them. You decide what you think that, a day, a week, when do you think the first bud? And you can decide, do you think there's only going to be 1? I think there's going to be 5, but what do you think? You just write down your prediction, and I hope you enjoyed your day. And I will see you next week to see where our plants are. Oh, I know. You thought I forgot. I didn't. I was just making sure you knew I hadn't showed you all the plants and what they look like. So 1 second, I got to go grab our other tray because I only have 1 tray on my little table here. And I will let you see what they all look like. You ready? Here we go. That is how our flowers look like now. Isn't it amazing? Yes, they did. They're all up. They're all looking healthy, and there's more than one in each one of our little cups. So again, you pick a pot you want to watch so that you can write down stuff in your little plant journal, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.